All right, welcome back, everybody. For our Halloween special today, we have Zombie Tribal. It's not exactly Zombie Tribal, it's Warren Soultrader combo, but we do have a lot of zombies between Carrion Feeder, Gravecrawler, Stitcher Supplier, Warren Soultrader. We've got a lot of graveyard recursion, so from the grave with things like Chthonian Nightmare, Unearth, Grist is even very nightmarish. I like it. But main point of this deck is, so there's two different routes we can take. We can either take a very aristocrats route where we just play a bunch of creatures, deal a bunch of damage to our opponent. If they kill our stuff, they take a bunch of damage. Or we have a combo with Warren Soultrader plus Gravecrawler plus either Marionette Apprentice or Sephiroth. Warren Soultrader, you pay a life, sacrifice a creature, create a treasure. You use that treasure to cast Gravecrawler from the graveyard, then sacrifice it to make the treasure. And then, depending on where you go with this loop, so with Marionette Apprentice, you're dealing 2 damage every loop while you just pay 1 life. So as long as you have twice as much life as your opponent, you can get them that way. Or if you had Sephiroth out, you're draining them for 1 each loop. So you're going neutral, and they're losing 1 life each round. We're playing an Eye of the Soul Cauldron, so if they do interact with our Warren Soultrader, we can put the ability of Warren Soultrader onto any of our creatures. We're playing Stitcher Supplier to mill over Gravecrawler. We're playing some free interaction and Flare of Malice, so we can sacrifice one of our black creatures to make the opponent sacrifice their largest creature, Planeswalker. We're playing some Graveyard Recursion with things like Chthonian Nightmare and Unearth. Chthonian Nightmare especially has some very nasty combos with things like Marionette Apprentice and Orcish Bowmasters, where they make tokens that you can then sag to get back other things from the graveyard. Grist can be unearthed or Chthonian Nightmared as just a form of removal. We've got Malevolent Rumble to dig, and then we've got a bunch of lands. Only notable ones really are Spymaster's Vault, which with as much as we're sacrificing and destroying and all that stuff with our creatures, and possibly even our opponent's creatures, this can let you dig a lot in certain matchups. We've got Phyrexian Tower, so we can actually sacrifice some of our creatures to add extra mana, accelerate just a little bit. And Takanuma, which can mill us and find us some combo pieces or other cards that we might need. For the sideboard, we have 4 Force of Despair. You exile a black card from your hand, destroy all creatures that entered this turn. This is really good against things like Affinity or Energy, any really go wide deck, or decks with just 1 big creature that they need to stick. Meathook Massacre cleans up the small boards again, things like Affinity, Energy, things like that. We've got Collector Ouphe for artifact decks like Affinity or Charbelcher. Heritage Reclamation pulls a lot of weight here and there, destroys artifacts, enchantments, exile card from graveyard, and you draw a card, so it can kind of just cycle itself worst case scenario. 2 more Thoughtseize, mostly for the combo matchups. Ashiok Dream Render for graveyard decks or for Titan, and Fulminator Mage for Titan or Tron variants. Alright, that's it for the intro. Let's hop into some matches. Alright, here we are. We are in game 1. We are going to keep our 7 here. We're just going to get to attack with a mass of Gravecrawlers, pretty much. And just in case the opponent's playing a black deck, I don't want to get hurt on mana and get phased out here, so I'm just going to take the 3 here and cast Gravecrawler number 1. Say go to the opponent. Opponent fetches for a Hallowed Fountain and exiles our Gravecrawler. That's okay. We're going to lead off on 2 more Gravecrawlers. On to you, opponent. Opponent just plays an island and passes to us. Let's go ahead and Marionette Apprentice. Opponent spell snares it, that's okay. Let's just get in with the Gravecrawlers then. And all you, opponent. Opponent plays another island and then passes it back. Oh, there's Gravecrawler number 4. I think I just want to go for another Marionette Apprentice here. Alright, the opponent counter spells. We'll keep beating in with the Gravecrawlers. Opponent Prismatic Endings, 1 Gravecrawler. Let's go ahead and attack here. Opponent's down to 7. Let's Stitcher Supplier. ETB, we mill another Stitcher Supplier, a Thoughtseize, and a Flare of Malice. I'm just intrigued in going for yet another Gravecrawler, and saying go to the opponent. An opponent on the end step just consults the charts. They get to look at the top 3 and put a card from among them into their hand. It's very fitting that we drew 4 Gravecrawlers for our very first game playing the Halloween-themed Zombie Tribal. Oh, there's Prismatic Ending number 3 for Gravecrawler number 3. And another Consult the Star Chart, so opponent's probably digging for a land here. Oh, opponent goes for Solitude. And exiles our Gravecrawler. Alright, so no combo for us this game. There's a Malevolent Rumble that we can't cast, so let's... I'll just go ahead and attack for 1 here. And then we will unearth Marionette Apprentice. And we'll make the servo, and then just pass it back to the opponent. Opponent with Consult the Star Charts, number 3. Still digging away. They find a land, Monumental Hinge, and passes it back to us. Okay, and they cast Orum's Chant Kicked, so nothing we're really doing this turn. Yeah, we just gotta pass it back to the opponent. Opponent casts a fairy here, bounces our token. And since the beginning of the game, we still have not found another land, so let's attack the opponent for 1. Let's just go ahead and get rid of this Teferi here, just in case. We don't want to get locked out. Opponent casts Supreme Verdict. Do get to take them for 1 there. We mill over Carrion Feeder and 2 Stitcher Suppliers. Yeah, let's shot the Overgrown Tomb in, and then let's just cast a 3/3. Then back off to the opponent. Opponent goes for Narset. Down ticks Narset. And the opponent finds a Lorien revealed. I go ahead and island cycling the Lorien revealed. Grab an Undercity Sewer, play that. They're probably trying to dig for some kind of answer here. Yeah, they just put a Narset in grave. We are pretty close here. Let's just attack the opponent for 1. Kinda makes me regret attacking the Teferi earlier, but I just did not want to get locked out. And then let's leave Malevolent Rumble and Boggart Trawler. Yeah, we can play another creature here. Oh, there's a Bowmasters. Yeah, let's just grab that. Without having to reveal anything else to the opponent. Yep, there we go. Alright, that's game 1. Let's see what we do for the sideboard. Alright, we're going to cut an Agatha Soul Cauldron and 2 Thoughtseizes for a Heritage Reclamation and 2 Fulminator Mages. The Thoughtseize and the Agathas just aren't going to be that important in this matchup, and I just brought in a couple creatures to do beats, and Heritage Reclamation, which can cycle itself or destroy Isochron Scepter in the event that that needs to happen. And let's get back into the games. Alright, our opener for game 2 is a little land light, so we're just going to mulligan that. And we will keep our 7, chucking back the... Flare of Malice isn't that important here, so we'll just chuck that back. And say go to the opponent. Opponent just plays fetch land, passes it off to us. We'll shock in an Overgrown Tomb and just play a Gravecrawler, pass it back to the opponent. Opponent fetches and surveils to top. Opponent goes ahead and fetch shocks for a Hollowed Fountain and Prismatic Endings, the Gravecrawler. Okay. We will Spymaster Vault here and just go for the Marionette Apprentice. Again, making the servo and then passing it back to the opponent. Opponent plays Meticulous Archive and surveils a Lorien Revealed to the Grave. And then taps 2 to Prismatic Ending the Marionette Apprentice. So back on us. We've got a couple different paths to take here. We could Malevolent Rumble plus Unearth. We could Stitcher Supplier, Unearth. We could go ahead and Grist and then just try to keep upticking that throughout the game. I think while the opponent's tapped out, that's kind of the route I want to take here. So let's do that. Just make it difficult for them to keep interacting with our board. Plus, if they play a Planeswalker, we can get rid of the Planeswalker. Okay, opponent Wraths for X equals 1. And then just passes it back to us. Okay, not bad. We'll go ahead and uptick Grist again. We do find a Marionette Apprentice in the grave. Let's... Stitcher Supplier? See if we can find anything else interesting. Just a Boggart Trawler. And now we choose between Malevolent Rumble and Unearth. Let's... Really, this matchup's all about applying pressure. Let's just go ahead and unearth the Marionette Apprentice. This also gives us another layer of board wipe protection if they try to go for a board wipe again. Oh, an opponent Surgical Extractions the Marionette Apprentice. We're okay with that. Alright, opponent doesn't do anything during their turn and just passes it back to us. Oh, and they Orum's Chant. Okay. So we can't cast or attack, but we can still activate Grist. And if we can put enough creatures into our graveyard, eventually we can just pop off with Grist down tick. Yeah, so we can't do anything, so we'll pass back to the opponent. Opponent plays War and just passes it back to us. Let's get back with the beats. Attack Insect and Stitchers. And then we'll go ahead and go for the Warren Soultrader here. And again, eventually we're going to be able to downtick this Grist and hopefully just get the opponent with that. Right now, though, we don't have but one creature in the graveyard, so passing it back to the opponent. Alright, opponent just passes it back to us. Goes for another Orum's Chant. Okay, we get a Flare of Malice, not all that important right now. Let's... Yeah, it's only one creature in the grave right now. We could sacrifice the Stitcher Supplier and then just activate the Spymaster's Vault to put some counters on one of the insects. Which will, in the end, be the same amount of mana anyways. Just seeing if we can put more creatures in the grave here. Stitcher Supplier. So we've got 3 creatures in the grave right now. And then we can connive one of the insects for black. And we can put We're going to hold off on the Gravecrawler here. We'll put the Fulminator Mage in graveyard. So we are at 4 creatures in graveyard. Let's go ahead and just uptick the Grist for now. And then we'll pass it back to the opponent. Opponent just hard casts a Daze Undoing. We'll allow it. So they get a fresh 7, we get a fresh 7. And opponent concedes it there. That's going to be match 1. Good game, good game. Alright, everybody, we are back. We are into our next match. We're on the play. We kept our 7, as did our opponent. We're just going to go ahead and fetch Shock here and play Gravecrawler. And on to the opponent. Opponent plays Mountain DRC. And it's got its companion, the Mishra's Bauble. Hoping to see what they're actually playing here, whether it's Prowess or some kind of Murktide variant. However, we do just get to go Orcish Bowmasters kill the DRC here. So let's just do that. Fetch for a swamp. Orcish Bowmasters. Target DRC. And we'll attack for 2 here. Opponent plays Thundering Falls. Surveils a Preordain into the grave. Still not 100% sure which variant we're playing against. We do have the kind of combo in hand. Let's play land. Go ahead and attack all. Opponent Lava Darts the Orcish Bowmasters. That's okay. And then, just in case they have more removal, let's go ahead and run out the Warren Soultrader. And they just go for Lightning Bolt on the Warren Soultrader. Not the end of the world here. An opponent plots a Slick Shot Show-Off. We do have the Flare of Malice in hand, so if they try to go for any big beats, we can get them there. We just draw into another Warren Soultrader. Because it's pretty likely that we are going to be sacrificing a creature during their turn to the Flare of Malice, I want to go ahead and get out the Marionette Apprentice. We see Sephiroth and Warren Soultrader. We'll take the Sephiroth. And then we will Marionette Apprentice. Make a servo, and go ahead and get in on the attacks here. Alright, and into the opponent's turn. Slick Shot Show Off. And Expressive Iteration. Opponent exiles and plays a mountain with the Expressive Iteration. We see a DRC. And a Mishra's Bauble. An opponent casts Violent Urge on the Slick Shot Show Up. We're just going to go ahead and Flare of Malice, sacrificing the Gravecrawler. Opponent's forced to sacrifice the Slick Shot Show Off, saving us a ton of damage. And back on our turn, the opponent will draw off Mishra's Bauble, but I think they should just be done for here. So we go for Warren Soultrader. We pay a life, sacrifice the Servo token. And then now we get to keep casting the Gravecrawler. And then for anybody who doesn't know how the loop works, we sacrifice Gravecrawler here, and then just keep casting off of the treasure token. And then during each loop, Marionette Apprentice makes the opponent lose 1 life, so if we're at a higher life total than our opponent, we'll just always win there, and if we are at a lower life total, instead we could go for Sephiroth. But GG opponent, let's see what we got in the sideboard. Alright, from the sideboard we're grabbing 4 Force of Despair for some more removal and 2 Meathook Massacres to clean up the opponent's board. And then we're taking out 2 Thoughtseize because we don't want to be taking damage, Agatha Soul Cauldron as it's not going to be that relevant, a Carrion Feeder as it's not going to be the beatdown card that we wanted to be in this game, and 2 Malevolent Rumble. We're on the draw here for game 2. It's a kind of slow hand, but I'm willing to keep it here because we have the 2 Force of Despair, so keep. The opponent also kept their 7. Let's see what the opponent's got. Opponent fetch shocks and goes for a DRC. And I think I'm willing to 2 for 1 myself just to get rid of this DRC. So let's Force the Despair, pitching Unearth. Okay, we draw Phyrexian Tower. Not exactly the thing we want to see here. We'll just play Polluted Delta and pass it back to the opponent. Alright, we see another DRC. And we're going to let this one stay. I think there's going to be a more impactful creature later on. We're just going to go ahead and take a Servile. Malevolent Rumble. It gives us something to do with our turn 2, so we'll keep it. Go ahead and fetch out a basic swamp and cast the Malevolent Rumble. We really don't need another land. Probably just take the Sephiroth here. And this token we can actually use to sacrifice to the Sephiroth to gain and lose 1, and then go ahead and draw a card to replace Sephiroth. So while the opponent's surveilling here, I think our plan right now is to Sephiroth next turn, Warren Soultrader the next, and we've got the Force of Despair plus Boggart Trawler in hand to get rid of any meaningful creatures that the opponent tries to cast. Opponent attacks with DRC here, no Delirium right now. Alright, we play the Phyrexian Tower, and we'll just go ahead and cast the Sephiroth. And opponent's just going to attempt to Lava Dart our guy. We'll just sacrifice it anyways. And then nothing we really want to sacrifice here, so we'll just pass it back to the opponent. Now we have a redundant Warren Soultrader in hand, so if they do manage to get Delirium next turn, we can just cast the Boggart Trawler. And then get rid of their graveyard to get rid of Delirium, so that way the DRC shrinks. Oh, and opponent unfortunately has an Unholy Heat here for our Sephiroth. They attack for 3, and this is really just starting to kind of feel like a control matchup here. Both of us trying to control each other out. Play Marsh Flats, and we'll go ahead and just cast the Boggart Trawler. And we exile the opponent's graveyard. I imagine they might Lava Dart in response. Yeah, they do. Alright, there goes our Boggart Trawler, but it's going to be pretty difficult for the opponent to set back up Delirium a second time here. Okay, opponent casts another DRC. And they Lightning Bolt us. Let's just go ahead and remove that new DRC. Slow them down as much as we can here. They do notably already have 3 types in graveyard again, and we're going to be at 9 life here. I'll just grab the Overgrown Tomb. Takenuma is not exactly what we want to see. We'll just play out the Warren Soultrader here. Pass it back to the opponent. The opponent has a sorcery or an artifact here. They do get to reset back up Delirium. Okay, they attack with the Monastery Swift Spear. And I think we're just going to take it here. Okay, more lands. Let's go ahead and do Takenuma things. And then we choose between Boggart Trawler and Sephiroth. I think I'm happier here going for Sephiroth. Try to gain some life. We play the Verdant Catacomb and just pass it back to the opponent. Okay, we see a Corey Steelcutter from the opponent. Surveils Violent Urge into the graveyard. Opponent probably has the Mutagenic Growth here, but I think I'm just going to have to take the block anyways, hope that they're bluffing it. Okay, it wasn't a Mutagenic Growth, but it was a Surgical Extraction. What was the Surgical Extraction? Targeting Force of Despair. So I feel like it's a little late for them to be caring about Force of Despair. But the big thing is it does make the Monastery Swift Spear big enough to kill the Warren Soultrader here now. And let's thin our deck, looking for like pretty much any creature here. Okay, Spymaster's Vault. Not what we are looking for. Not even 100% sure if we can survive this next turn. We kind of flooded out a bit here. Opponent preordains, which will give them Delirium now. And they put an Expressive Iteration to the graveyard anyways. So no matter what, we're going to have to block this turn with the Sephiroth. Opponent plays Mountain, and Unholy Heat on Sephiroth, and that's just going to be enough damage to kill us, so let's go into the next game. On the play here, we're going to keep our 7. We have Orcish Bowmasters, Gravecrawler, Flare of Malice, a lot of things that I do like to see. So let's just take the conservative approach and go for a Swamp here. And then Gravecrawler, pass it to the opponent. Opponent plays Arid Mesa, fetches for a Steam Vents, chucks that in and plays a DRC, which we're fine with seeing here because we've got the Orcish Bowmasters. So let's play out the Spymaster's Vault, and let's go ahead and Orcish Bowmasters the DRC. And then we attack with the Gravecrawler here, get in some damage, and pass it back to the opponent. Opponent fetches with Arid Mesa, grabs a Mountain. And another DRC. Which I think we're fine with here. Okay, there's a Marionette Apprentice. And then at any time we can flare to just have them sack the DRC. just thinking out loud here. Flare of Malice. The DRC. Sacking Orcish Bowmasters. Chthonian Nightmare. Bring back the Gravecrawler. Or bring back Orcish Bowmasters. Sacrificing Gravecrawler or the Orc Army token. Or we could Phyrexian Tower. Sacrifice the Orcish Bowmasters. Cast Chthonian Nightmare and get out the Marionette Apprentice here. Okay, hold on. I think we're cooking here. Play Phyrexian Tower. Play Marionette Apprentice. Because we might be able to get the opponent here. So we'll make a servo. We'll sacrifice the Orcish Bowmasters. Opponent loses a life. And opponent Unholy Heats targeting Marionette Apprentice. Let's see if the opponent surveils a sorcery or artifact into the grave, because that might depend on some stuff here. Okay. Nope, they just kill the Marionette Apprentice, so we can... Yeah, we'll just go for the Chthonian Nightmare here. So, Chthonian Nightmare. Enters, get 3 energy. We will return the Orcish Bowmasters. Sacrificing the servo token. Orcish Bowmasters hit DRC. Okay, now we're rolling. Sorry, we just had a complicated line there. Alright, now it's all the opponent, and then what we can do here is if they play any meaningful creatures, we can just Flare of Malice it, sacrificing the Orcish Bowmasters, and then bring back the Orcish Bowmasters again. Okay, they Lightning Bolt target Orcish Bowmasters. We'll let them make the token with Quarry Steelcutter. And then we'll just sacrifice the Orcish Bowmasters to have them sacrifice their token there. Okay, and now we're cooking. So let's... we could have attacked for a little bit more here. Possibly even lethal. But I may have messed it up. Let's see. Let's just grab a... I think we're okay to grab an Overgrown Tomb here. Go black, black, play Marionette Apprentice. Making a servo. And then we need to sacrifice 2 creatures this turn, so we sacrifice the Orc Army token. Make 2 black. Play the Chthonian Nightmare. Use it. Bringing back Orcish Bowmasters, sacrificing the servo token. And then they would have taken 1 off the Marionette Apprentice there and 1 off the Orcish Bowmasters, so took a little bit of arithmetic, but we got there. Good games, opponent, good games. Alright, we're on the play. We're going to keep our 7 here. Don't really have anything for our first turn, but we can Underground Mortuary first turn, and then depending on where things look like they're going from there, we can Orcish Bowmasters. Honestly, we're going to have a lot of... Well, I don't know. I want to get to some lands. Let's put that in Graveyard. We might not even be playing against a creature-heavy deck. Oh, and look at that. We're playing against a creature-heavy deck. Oh, and we're just going to go ahead and hit that with our Orcish Bowmasters before they can get on Delirium. Opponent fetches here, grabs a Steam Vents, grabs Monastery Swift Spear and Monastery Swift Spear. Do we want to sack our Orc army to deal with these? Or to deal with one of them, I guess. Yeah, let's just go ahead and do it. One less that we have to deal with. Or we probably could have waited till after blockers to do that. Or we probably could have even double blocked there. Let's... So Chthonian Nightmare brings back Orcish Bowmasters, but we can go ahead and start setting things up with Marionette Apprentice to be able to get them for some more. Grab a servo, we'll attack for 1 here. We might be trying to race them here. Okay, there's an expressive iteration from the opponent. Opponent exiles a land. Mountain Lightning Bolts the Marionette Apprentice. We'll just take the 3 here. I think I'm okay with that. Here is a Phyrexian Tower, so we can actually cast out both Marionette Apprentices right here. Yeah, let's do that. So we'll go ahead and attack. Let's cast Marionette Apprentice. Make a servo. Sacrifice the servo to cast Marionette Apprentice. Make another servo. And pass it to the opponent. And now we'll have some pretty interesting loops with Chthonian Nightmare here. Opponent plays Corey Steelcutter, Lightning Bolts one of our Marionette Apprentices. So we're going to be able to Chthonian Nightmare twice next turn. Oh, no attacks from the opponent. Okay. I think we're the ones that will eventually win if they let us just pop off with Chthonian Nightmare. So let's bring back a Marionette Apprentice, sacrificing one of the servos. Make a servo. We'll sacrifice one of the servos. Cast Chthonian Nightmare. Sacrifice the other servo to bring back another Marionette Apprentice. Make another servo and pass it back to the opponent. Actually, we can attack here. If they block the Orc Army token, they're actually taking quite a bit of damage here. They'll take 3. So you take less damage by not blocking the Orc Army token. I think no matter what, I'm trying to figure out how they get out of this. I don't think they have a way out. Okay, and the opponent concedes it there. Let's see the sideboard plan. I want to try something a little different with the sideboarding this time. We're actually going to keep the Thoughtseizes in and bring in more Thoughtseizes to see if we can just very early on Thoughtseize out the opponent's creatures from hand. And then we'll follow up with Force of Despair and Meathook Massacre. We're taking out Warren Soultrader. I don't think we're going to really be able to go for the combo in this game. Agatha Soul Cauldron and the Malevolent Rumbles. And let's see what the opponent's got for us. Okay, we see a handful of lands. We're going to mulligan that. And this is a little more reasonable. Still not quite what we want, but we'll keep it, putting back one of the Flare of Malices. Alright, opponent, let's see what you got. Okay, so we're just going to lead off Underground Mortuary here. Force of Despair is actually not bad. We'll put it on top and hope for the best. The issue is I feel like if they do have any more creatures, they're all just going to come out this turn. Are we about to see trippy creatures? Okay, no. So we got double DRC going right now. They're going to have 3 types in graveyard already. Alright, here we'll just cast out the Marionette Apprentice. And I suppose, do we hold the Flare of Malice? Seeing if they have another creature. Okay, they Unholy Heat here, targeting the Marionette Apprentice, so let's just go ahead and sacrifice it, have them sacrifice one of their Dragon Rage Channelers, and the next turn if they try to cast another creature. We do pitch basically our entire hand, but we can Force of Despair them. Okay, and there's their 4th type engrave. So we make Servo, pass it back, see what they got. There's another DRC. We'll take the 3 here, see if they cast any other creatures afterwards. Nope. So yeah, unfortunately I think we're gonna sacrifice the ability of the Chthonian Nightmare there. Really strong card, but it's just not going to be able to do enough for us here. We're just going to try to conserve our life total as much as possible, take the safe lines. Opponent fetches here, grabs a Steam Vents. And another Unholy Heat. Okay, opponent's trying to be the one to control us out. Which I guess when you have a 3/3 flyer on board isn't a bad plan. So we'll just attack with the servo, pass it back to the opponent here. They attack us for 3, we're just going to instep, grab a tapped Overgrown Tombs. We find a Flare of Malice. I was hoping to kind of keep the Takanuma to be able to get something back, but I think being able to hardcast the Flare of Malice is probably going to be a little more important here. Because if they have something like a Slick Shot Show Off or something next turn, that's going to be more of a problem for us. So we'll just attack for 2 here, pass it back to the opponent. They're attacking us for 3 each turn. Oh, okay, they've got Lava Dart. Interesting that they didn't save it for their turn. Okay, let's go ahead and Flare of Malice, get rid of this creature that they got. And maybe we can just focus on keeping them off of creatures for the remainder of the game. Okay, opponent Lightning Bolts, targeting face. They've only got 1 card left in hand. And it's a Lava Dart, so yeah, they're just throwing all the damage at our face. They have 2 Lava Darts in graveyard. And I guess they're just trying to do this to surveil some kind of creature to the top. And so far they've put everything into graveyard. Alright, so we're left with a couple of creatures. They have nothing. Let's go for the Malevolent Rumble that we were blessed with here. Oh yeah, we'll take a Sephiroth. Let's go ahead and attack with the servos. And let's cast out the Sephiroth. Sacrifice a servo. Okay, we have a way to clear out their graveyard next turn, which actually I'll take. Okay, and we win it there. Good games, opponent, good game. Alright, and we're back. We are on the play, but we are going to mulligan this hand as we have no lands. And we will keep our new hand, putting... Might need a green source eventually. Honestly, we don't really have time to cast the Thoughtseize. We'll keep this and hope not Thoughtseizing our opponent doesn't hurt us. Alright, and let's just get aggressive with a Gravecrawler and say go to the opponent. Ooh, and we're playing against Affinity. We see a Pinnacle Emissary. Yeah, this is no good for us. We have a decent sideboard against them, but... Alright, let's just grab... Let's go ahead and grab our Overgrown Tomb, just in case. Play out the Marionette Apprentice. And then the Gravecrawler is not going to be doing us much in this matchup anyways. Let's go ahead and attack with it, see if we can get in some damage. Opponent does not take the block. They do have a Tormod's Crypt right off the rip. That's unfortunate. Makes our Chthonian Nightmare much worse. Oh, and I imagine we're seeing a Kappa Cannoneer here. So now we need our Flare of Malice off top, preferably. Alright. Thoughtseize is exactly what we wanted to see here. But let's Thoughtseize them in case they have second Kappa Cannoneer. So they do still have 3 cards in hand. No. We'll just take the Engineered Explosives here. We'll... This Chthonian Nightmare is not going to be that important, realistically. Let's just... grab a Surveil land on the opponent's end step and try to dig for this Flare of Malice as much as possible. I cast say Springleaf Drum, triggering the Kappa Cannoneer. And we see the Mimnite. They're just going to get in as much damage while they can. They're attacking for 10 here. Yeah, I mean, we can't block any of it. Alright, let's dig for that Flare. Not a Flare. Okay, yeah, and we concede it there because next turn they're going to have an artifact with the Pinnacle Emissary and they're going to be able to attack for enough, so... Good game there. Let's see what we're going to do on the sideboard. We're going to go on a pretty hard control plan here. The opponent has a lot of graveyard interaction. Most of them play at least 3 Tormod's Crypt. They normally play like 1 more graveyard piece on the sideboard. They have their 4 Urza Saga to be able to search them out. So we're going to take out a lot of our graveyard stuff. So Agatha Cauldron, Unearth, 2 Warren Soultrader in the form Malevolent Rumble go. And we're bringing in 4 Force of Despair, 2 Meathook Massacre, 2 Thoughtseize, a Collector Ouphe, and a Heritage Reclamation. Let's get into the next game. We're on the play here. This isn't the best 7, but I see Flare of Malice. This at least keeps a Kappa Cannoneer from being a problem, as long as they can't turn 1 the Kappa Cannoneer. So, high key, there's nothing we're really going to be able to do this turn, so let's just lead off on the Spymaster's Vault and say go. Opponent kept another 7 with Pinnacle Emissary. We do get to shoot down one of the drones, at least. Oh, are they going to be able to turn 1 Kappa Cannoneer here? Okay, no, they just had 2 artifacts here. So not too bad for us. I do think we have to go ahead and go for the Orcish Bowmasters. Oh, do they have Metallic Rebuke? Oh, no, okay. Yeah, now we're in a pretty rough position here. Because any 0-drop artifact from the opponent next turn represents a Kappa Cannoneer. Or they could just hardcast Pinnacle Emissary if they have a land. Oh, and it's an Urza Saga. If we can find a green source off top, we can Heritage Reclamation the Urza Saga at least. Yeah, there's the Pinnacle Emissary. And opponent attacks for 2 here, that's fine with us. Alright, we did not find a green source, so let's just Thoughtseize the opponent. See if maybe there's a Kappa Cannoneer or something in there. Just an Aether Spellbomb and 2 lands. And then we'll go ahead and play the Stitcher Supplier. So we do at least have Flare of Malice up, which we could use to go ahead and get rid of the Pinnacle Emissary, or we could hold it to deal with a possible Kappa Cannoneer off top. With them not having really many artifacts, they don't have any artifacts in hand currently. Most they're casting next turn is 2. I think we just hold out until we see a Kappa Cannoneer, just to be safe. Opponent attacks for 5, we'll take it. Okay, there's the Overgrown Tomb, so let's go ahead and shock in the Overgrown Tomb and try to go ahead and hit this Urza's Saga. And then next turn, I think we're going to have to block the Construct and then just sacrifice with Stitcher Supplier in response. It's just the reality of the situation. They're too fast for us. Alright, Memnite, another drone token. Yeah, they attack out here, so we block the Construct. Go ahead and Flare of Malice, sacrificing the Stitcher Supplier. Makes them sack their Pinnacle Emissary, so we're only taking 2 this turn, but we've still got a lot of damage to deal with next turn. This does also mean, because we had to block with the Stitcher Supplier here, we're not really getting anything off Sephiroth next turn, so we're just down to top decks here. Alright, let's see what we draw here. Another Stitcher Supplier. So we're not dead on board necessarily, because we can still block the Construct token. And we've got the Gravecrawler. Can't block though. But it does at least give us something to sack to Sephiroth next turn if we need to. On to the opponent. We hardcast another Pinnacle Emissary. See a Mishra's Bauble and another drone token. Lock with the Stitcher Supplier. Windmill, Boggart Trawler, land, Force of Despair. I could not imagine what we could find here that's going to be meaningful. Let's see if we can find anything. Yeah, they just got us dead in the air. Good game, opponent. GG. Alright, we're on the draw, but we're going to keep the 7 here. We've got 2 out of the 3 pieces for our combo. Stitcher Supplier plus Flare of Malice. Mills a 6 to possibly find Gravecrawler, so we might be able to get there pretty quick if we're lucky enough. Opponent Fetch Shocks Blood Crypt. Plays Marauding Mako. Okay, so we're against Hollow One here. Maybe some Hollow One variant. Let's go ahead and we're going to shock in an Overgrown Tomb just to make sure we do get our green source here. And we do mill over a Gravecrawler. Opponent fetches with Polluted Delta, grabs Steam Vents. Oh! Is this some Cauldron brew? And then here I have to debate whether Marauding Mako or DRC is more of a problem. Marauding Mako can hit pretty hard. And if we give our opponent the choice, they're just going to choose the one that's best for them, so... we'll choose for them, even if it might not be the better of the choices. We mill 3 more, we get Chthonian Nightmare, Stitcher Supplier, Sephiroth. Okay. And then opponent Faithless Looting. They discard Gristlebrand, Faithless Looting. Okay, I think I know what's going on here. I think they might be the Fury of the Hordes deck, possibly. So let's just run out Marionette Apprentice, and then if they do, guess Gristlebrand, we have Flare of Malice. And then unless the opponent does a ton of damage here to us, or has some kind of interaction, yada yada yada, then we do just get to go off next turn with the Warren Soultrader. We'd sacrifice the servo token, get treasure, cast Gravecrawler from grave, and then every loop we're dealing them 2, where we're only taking 1 because this triggers off of creatures and artifacts, so it counts the treasure token. There's Psychic Frog, which we don't really care about. Okay, we take the 3. Still puts us in a good enough place to get them with Warren Soultrader. Let's see if the opponent has interaction. Oh, they concede it there. Okay, they know about the combo. Alright, let's see what we got for the sideboard. Oh, and actually, before we even go into the sideboard, I think they might be Vivi Cauldron. The blue-red makes me think it might be more so Vivi Cauldron. They put Gristlebrand into the graveyard. For the sideboard, we're cutting Carrion Feeder, 3 War. We're cutting 1 click. Sorry, y'all, I'm back, just having a stroke. We're going to cut 1 Carrion Feeder, 3 Warren Soultrader, and 4 Malevolent Rumble. Carrion Feeder is not going to be that relevant. 3 Warren Soultrader. It's going to be pretty difficult for us to go for our combo, especially when they have Agatha Soul Cauldron main, plus probably even more Graveyard Hate sideboard, and 4 Malevolent Rumble because we're going to have less hits since we're bringing in a bunch of non-creatures. We're bringing in Ashiok to interact with Graveyard, Heritage Druid to blow up Agatha Soul Cauldron or hit something in Graveyard. 2 Thoughtseize for hand disruption, and for Force of Despair to interact with all the creatures. Let's run it back. Alright, we see Thoughtseize, Orcish Bowmasters. The hand's a little land heavy, but we're going to keep it and hope that it's enough. Alright, opponent during their turn just Black Cleaves Cliff, Faithless Looting, dumping 2 lands. We're just going to go ahead and Thoughtseize them. Okay, so we see Goyo, Vivi, Profs. So let's... It's difficult. So if we take Vivi, they've got it in the graveyard for if they ever Cauldron. If we take Goryo, they can't reanimate anything. If we take Profs, they can't dig, so they're not doing anything for another turn. I think we're going to take the Vivi here. Let's just take them off of any kind of action that they could have and pass it to the opponent. And if for whatever reason they do hold off on Profs, then we've got Orcish Bowmasters. Okay, they do just go ahead and Profs. So they basically just spend their turn to cycle. And then next turn there's a chance that they play land and Faithless Looting. Now, I think I want to play the Verdant Catacombs, so it's just as difficult as possible for them to read Orcish Bowmasters. Okay, or we have another Thoughtseize here. So we know 2 cards in their hand are Scalding Tarn, Goryo. I don't know what the last card is. I don't think Goryo is going to be the most important thing here. Let's just play the Takenuma and say go. Oh, and then I forgot about the Mishra's Bauble, so we can go ahead and Orcish Bowmasters actually in response to the Mishra's Bauble. So we ping them a couple times, grow our Orc army, and then we'll see what they do this turn. So they do have a total of 5 cards in hand now. There's the Scalding Tarn. Grab Watery Grave. Okay, and they just hardcast a Vivi. Do get to put a counter on the Vivi. Let's go ahead and Thoughtseize, see what they have. It's just Goryo Agatha. We'll take the Agatha. Yeah. And then what are the odds that they block here? It's not 0. Let's see what we can make happen. Okay, they just take the 2 here. And then unless they draw a good action off top, they'll probably have to flash back the Faithless Looting. Okay, here's the Faithless Looting. So we kept our other Orcish Bowmasters secret. I will apologize. Alright, and we are back with the wrap-up. Honestly, not too bad. We'll take a 4-1 there. Admittedly, I did another league and didn't do as well in that league, but all in all, the deck performed decently well. The free interaction with Flare of Malice and Force of Despair is pretty good for a lot of these go fast decks. The combo, I think we got to see in 1 or 2 matches, maybe. The combo doesn't come up as much, but you'll notice that things like Marionette Apprentice, Sephiroth, and Chthonian Nightmare, Orcish Bowmasters, this is kind of our core that really just keeps the games moving pretty fast. We're getting back into the game with things like Sephiroth. We're dealing a ton of damage with Marionette Apprentice. Every time one of our things dies, we have plenty of sacrifice outlets. But all in all, the deck's pretty good. I hope everybody has a very spooky Halloween. And that's going to be it for the wrap-up today. Thank you all for watching. Like, subscribe, comment what deck you want to see me play next, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace out.